Do you have earbuds? Because it's going to be hearing everything. You could go to the kids' room and close the door.
Hey, good morning, One Church. Good to see everybody. Some of you are popping on and saying hello. I encourage you, if you're with us today, take a second on Facebook or YouTube, whatever, make a comment and say hello. Let us know you're here. It's good to be with you today. Welcome you to the virtual campus, which is our only campus right now, as we continue to try to um, do the mitigation and protect ourselves from the virus as it seems to be doing a little surge in our area. Continuing to pray for friends that are sick. Actually, my friend Jay, that I've talked about a few times, I heard that he just got moved out of the ICU yesterday. So that's exciting, and want you to ask you to continue to pray for him. Hey, so last week we were in this series and we were talking about our calling. And if you recall, 2 weeks ago, the whole idea was it's not so much about what God calls us to do, but it's who He calls us to be. And that oftentimes out of the who, we find out the do. And so last week we went in and was talking about sometimes callings have a cost, and the calling can be challenging. Sometimes it costs us strained relationships with different people, with family, and but then we talked about how that the calling is also what sustains us, and sometimes we're called to do things in seasons. Sometimes we're in a season where we're active in a church environment. Where right now, not many of us having that possibility, but sometimes we're called just to have a season where we are in a season of becoming. Yesterday, I had a great phone call with a guy that I've been involved in his life as a mentor for almost 20 years now. He's a pastor at a church in Texas, a campus pastor of a large megachurch, and he's over one of their campuses and a couple others as an oversight guy. And he's talking about a season in his life where even though he's active in ministry and even though he's doing, he feels like he's in a season where God is talking to him and calling him to be something, to become a different who. And it's not sure whether that's going to mean that he has a transition in what he does, but he felt like that God is really calling him to a who. And we had a great conversation around that. And so I just hope that this couple of weeks of conversations about calling has challenged you. I know it's challenged a couple other people because I've had a couple of people reach out to me. And today we're actually going to have a conversation with a couple of people. We're trying a brand new technology. It's my first time to use it live, and it is also Justin and Melissa's first time to do it live. But I'm bringing them on the call, and here we are. Man, this looks like CNN or Fox or something. We're all three on the screen at the same time. So, welcome, Justin.
Good morning, everybody.
It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Melissa, welcome to you.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah. So I asked you two to join me today. We're going to have a phone call or a conversation about calling. And the interesting thing is, last week I talked a little bit about Justin's calling and that we know he's called to lead worship. And he does that. And he's also called to write songs. And he wrote the song that was played last week. And we're going to look at that again today. But through the middle of the week, Melissa, you reached out to me a little bit about your calling. And so I want to talk to you first specifically just a little bit about your calling and what you felt like happening this week as you listened to the message and just realizing a little bit about where you are. First of all, let me just say it's good to see you. I haven't seen your face.
Thank you. It's awesome to see you and actually talk.
I know, right? This whole not being able to see each other has been a little crazy, but it is great to see you. I hope the
Thank you.
family's doing well.
They're all good, healthy, and happy. So, yeah, they're doing
Good,
good.
good. So you sent me a message in the middle of the week, and I don't know. I know that you did not expect that out of that message I would ask you to join me live today.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And even when you asked me about this, I'm like, are you sure you want me?
So we at one church, we're just honest. We just want to be real. We're not putting on any shows or games. One of the things you told me in the email is that this season has been really challenging for you personally, for you and your marriage, and even for you spiritually. Take just a second
Absolutely.
and tell me a little bit about. Just be honest. What's been the challenge? What
Yeah.
are you?
I'm a people person, and so when COVID hit, I work for the state of Missouri government, and they sent us all home to work from home, which is great in many ways. But I do not have that people interaction with my coworkers, but more importantly, with my caseload of families. I have 165 families on my caseload, and I went from traveling all over Southwest Missouri, visiting 6 counties that I work with, visiting those families and those individuals, to everything over the phone. Not even Zoom. I don't even get to see my families. It's all over the phone. So that isolation has really, really hit hard. Um,
Right.
Learning to be at home all the time with 6 people in a very small house has been very difficult.
Right.
Let alone just everything going on with COVID and politics, and sometimes not seeing eye to eye with everything with family members has been difficult to try to kind of navigate through and live with. So just all of that coming down has really brought me down. There's been times where several weeks I've kind of stepped away from church and not watched services because it's just like I'm done. I'm frustrated. I'm done, you
Right.
know. And so just randomly, it was actually I think on Monday is when I watched your service or your talk from Sunday. So
Hmm.
you just kind of a random. I was doing dishes or whatever and decided to put it on. So and it really really spoke to me. So
Yeah.
that's kind
Well, one of
of
the things you
been.
mentioned when we were chatting back and forth a little bit there was that um, this idea of calling. Um,
Hmm.
so many times we feel like that if we're doing our calling, we have to be working in the church, which none of us are really doing right now. But you kind of realize that your calling right now is different. Actually, you're waiting tables at a restaurant and also sometimes slinging alcohol, which is what you were doing last night.
Yep.
Um, I know for me that when I was slinging alcohol at the Riff in Classic Rock Coffee back in the day, man, I had some great conversations at times there. And so that can be our calling. We can be touching people in different ways. You're also being more involved in your kids' life. So just talk to me a little bit right now about what you felt and what the message said to you about your calling.
Sure, sure. So I have always really honestly for my whole life struggled with discontentment, like feeling like there's more out there. And I want the very best for my family. And so I'm always kind of looking for that next job that pays a little bit more, going into management, that type of thing. So really struggled with that and where I'm at. And then with COVID happening, that there's just no movement with work. I am where I am, and so I really kind of realized that my calling right now is the families I serve, whether it be my own family or the 165 families on my caseload, and figuring out how can I serve them right now, working from home in my tiny little office in my bedroom. What can I do? And I think a huge breaking point was earlier on in the COVID season that and that's where I kind of learned like this is what I need to be doing is we had I have a family, or it's actually an elderly mom, and her adult son is a type 1 diabetic and he's autistic.
Hmm.
So he receives services from, one of the services I oversee. And the problem with COVID was the day hab program that he goes to had shut down. So he's home all the time with mom. Mom, is older, she doesn't understand technology, and so she was really struggling with food, not because of a lack of money, but because she was so scared to bring her son into Walmart to
Right.
grocery shop. He would get the virus and he would die. That's what's in her head.
Right.
And she could not figure out the Walmart app on the phone to do like the pickup. And so they were literally running out of food in their house. They had visited the food banks and the resources in Springfield. And what the issue they found with that was it's a lot of processed food, boxed food.
Right.
And with a type 1 diabetic, that does not go well. That shoots his blood sugars up. And having a diabetic daughter, I knew exactly what she was talking about in that struggle. So she had talked to me about every day for about a week, just really just to complain because she had nobody else. She had no family to help her out. And kind of at the end of the week, I hung up and I burst into tears and I told Chris, and I was like, I can get her some groceries and just leave them on her doorstep.
Right.
And so that's what we did. We went to Walmart. I left Chris and the kids in the car. I ran through Walmart, got all the foods that she mentioned that the son really likes. Drove to her house, put them on the doorstep. I called her as I'm leaving. I'm like, hey, open your door. There's a bunch of groceries outside.
Wow.
And she cries and thanks me, and just realizing that's where I'm at in
Yeah.
life, and that's how I can serve. And just those little things, and realizing where you're at and how can you go more, to
Right.
serve the people. So.
Back years ago when I was in campus ministry working with college students, we, we all often talked about calling. And there were some college students that were called to be in ministry. There's students that are missionaries and stuff all over the world. But we had a phrase that we used a lot that I think kind of describes what you're talking about right now. We called it marketplace missionaries. These are people that are
Hmm.
using the job they have to be missionaries, to be the hands and feet of God to people. And it doesn't always have to be cloaked with, I'm bringing you groceries. Will you meet me on the step and let me lay my hands on you and pray for you? That kind of stuff. That's not necessary. You became the hands and feet of God to that lady, um, and God has placed you in a place to be used to touch people that nobody else would really know had the need. And that's what I think is that I got out of your conversation that we had online. And when you
Hmm.
told me that particular story, um, it just made my heart big because I knew God in places. So
Thank you.
I want to thank you for that. And for those of you that are wondering, Melissa and Chris kind of live out in the rural part, and so their internet's a little slow sometimes, and so she is a little jumpy, but I think we can still all hear her words and stuff. So anything else, Melissa, just on this idea of calling, that after I told you that you were going to be on the call with me today, that maybe you've thought about and realized about this season that God has you in.
I think it's basically what you said, as far as finding moments wherever you are at in life right now. Um, of serving. We do not have to be involved in the church, because most of us aren't going to the physical building.
Right.
Finding where you're at in life and finding your calling there and serving God there. And kind of like you said, with working at a restaurant and, as you said, slinging alcohol. um, I have had some amazing conversations with
Yeah.
some of the customers,
Yeah.
and meeting people that just spark amazing conversations. And so finding those moments just wherever you're at in life.
Yeah. I think, the end of last week's talk, talking about the cost of calling, but then the calling sustains us. And I think it's these moments like you're talking about that sometimes we don't even realize what's happening. And we may even not realize in the moment that um, we're living out that calling. But on reflection, we can look back and see that. And I think that's so important. I just want to say thanks for joining the call today. I'm going to jump over and talk to Justin real quick. I'm going to all three of you on the screen again real quick. I like this new technology. I'm having fun with it. But thanks for joining, Melissa. We're going to jump and talk to Justin real quick, and then I'll bring both of you back on right near the end. So, Justin, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. Just
Hey,
waking up today.
yeah, right. I know. We
Yeah.
talked yesterday. You work nights, and so this is your. I actually have made you get up a little bit early today, especially since we're not
It's
doing
pretty
service.
sad, but that is my schedule lately. Yeah.
Yeah, especially since we're not doing services on Sundays, you get to sleep in a little bit. Hey, so
Yep.
we've been talking about calling, Justin, and you and I go way back. I met you years ago and realized then that you had a unique calling on your life for leading worship and for writing. You've written several songs. We've heard some at one church, and I know that you've been talking about some new stuff that's coming out of your heart as well. And I think the team's going to work on another song that you've written here in the next week or so. Um, and that's one thing about you that I know you were called. But here's the other thing about you that I know: you work for the city, and for years you were a bus driver. And for years, you used that platform. While you were still leading worship on Sunday, you used your bus job as an opportunity to be God's hands and feet to people in our city. So, first, I want to talk about that part of your calling. Just share a little bit about what it was like realizing that God had placed you in a marketplace ministry, a marketplace missionary environment where you could serve and touch people in that environment.
Well, I mean, most people when they drive around town and they may see people on the streets or holding up signs, um, we all have compassion for that. We see that, but
Right.
being a bus driver, being involved in that system. This is I'm going on 18 years now. uh, People in Springfield ride the system because most of them have to here.
Right.
It's not like a larger city where, you go to New York or something where even, uh, doctors, lawyers, or, everybody rides those systems because
Sure.
it's out of convenience, you know. Um, and, every single day, I see a situation where someone's absolutely down and out, and they need some form of help, and that has been a job that has really touched my heart, because you're right, we've been able to reach the heart of this community, that people that are in need. And I've always enjoyed it. It takes a special type of personality and person to do that day in and day
Right.
out. But I'm fortunate to be a part of a really awesome group of people, all the bus drivers, all of the transit staff people. um, they're all they all have a really big heart for this community. So it has touched my heart to be able to use that gift. There's other gifts, like you say. It's touched my heart to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's one thing that just pops up in my mind right now. Even the people that are writing, even the people that don't even seem to have much.
Hmm.
I have watched time and time again people in this community who will give their last literal dime
Hmm.
to help somebody else get on the bus.
Right.
And those are people who have nothing left,
Right.
and they're willing to help somebody else. And I know that that blesses them.
Yeah. That's awesome. You know, you're in a situation as I am similar. We call it being bivocational in that we work a job to take care of us. We're tent makers, so to speak, kind of like Paul was. We work a job to supply our needs for our family, but then we do ministry, and ministry is not our source of income or our main source of income. For years, you've been doing that. You led worship as part of a team. I know at North Point, it was where I first met you. And then I know you worked with another church. And then, of course, we've been together for several years. Talk to me a little bit about that calling of, of leading others into worship and serving God in that way.
Well, I will tell you, it's not easy. As you know, being bivocational, I can't tell you how many times that I have just about thrown in the towel.
Yeah.
Doing this for well over 20 years.
Right.
You know, and I would say bivocationally for about 17 years straight
Right.
now. But every time that feeling comes across me, where I feel like that I can't handle it anymore, I can't do it anymore, all I can say is that there's a huge hole in my heart.
Yeah.
There's something there that never ever goes away, no matter how bad things get in life, no matter what situation I'm going through.
Yeah.
It's the it can't, if you're not able to handle it, it it may not be for everybody. I mean, we're all called in some form, you know,
Right.
but sometimes you feel like the weight of the entire world is on your shoulders.
Yeah.
When you have that calling, you don't just go through a situation that's personal.
Hmm.
You go through that situation with everybody that you're called to serve,
Right.
and that makes things compounded sometimes when you go through something.
Yeah.
Um, but I can tell you that no matter what you go through, it's always that calling that that strengthens you, that
Right.
tells you you are going to push through this. God has you. You are going to make it, and it's only through serving others that you make it through that.
Right.
Basically.
Talk to me a little bit about the song that we're going to play again today. We actually have played it 2 weeks in a row already, which we don't normally do. I felt like it fit last week, and then when I realized we were going to have this conversation today, I just felt like it's a great chance for you to share um, this song, why you wrote it, and kind of just what the song means to you. Because I know when I see you sing it, it comes from a place deep inside you. So if you don't mind, just take a second
Mhm.
to talk to us about that.
Basically, I wrote this song a long time, although this song fits for more recent events in my life quite a bit. but I wrote this song basically right before I started working at my job at City Utilities.
Wow.
Uh, and I was going through what then I thought was the toughest part of my life, you know. But it's interesting when I write a lot of those songs. I'll be going through something like I was then. I didn't have a job. Uh, I could go through a whole long list of things, but I was down and out. I
Right.
felt like I had nothing left in life, and I wrote that. And that song came from a place of me. Basically, I'm happy that I was brought up the way that I was
Sure.
in the church, and I knew that there's a lot of strength in trusting God and putting our faith in Him through the really tough times. This song kind of started, I believe, from what is it, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Did I
Yeah.
say that right,
Yep.
Noble? Basically, that when they were put in the fire, but they didn't get burnt,
Right.
and so that's lyrics started from this song. Though I walk through the fire, you're with me,
Wow.
and I was going through that fire in my life, and um, but a lot of the songs I write will later on in life make sense. Like God put that on my heart, and now I think I have a better opportunity now to get that song out there. Um,
Sure.
but that's where that song came from. I was going through a major fire in my life, and it was my crying out to God and saying, and it's that faith in those hard times that really allows God to bring you through it,
Yeah.
and that's where that came from.
Well, I think this season that we're in now has created a fire for all of us. Whether it's job insecurities or uncertainties because of COVID or all the racial tensions and specifically the political tensions. I know um, for all of us, this is a season that's trying us. And I think that's one reason that this song means so much to me. I'm going to bring Melissa back in the call. Hey, Melissa, Justin, I just want to say thank
Hey.
both of you for getting up early today, taking time. I know we can all usually sleep in on Sundays or whatever's going on, but thank you for taking time to come and be vulnerable and share a little bit about your calling. I look forward to the chance that we can all be together again soon. But in the meantime, I just want to say thanks for you guys jumping on the call. And we're going to end today's uh, online service with Justin's song. But before I go, do either of you have anything else you want to say just to everybody?
I saw something yesterday, a little bit of light on Facebook, believe it or not.
Really?
Do you mind if I share it real quick? I know,
Sure.
right?
No, that'd be great.
The timing was perfect. A high school friend of mine posted something yesterday, and I said, "Thank you. I'm going to use that tomorrow, okay? Because it's about gifts." But, anyways, so something good on Facebook I saw yesterday. It says, "Rivers don't drink their own water, trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and the flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We were all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you're happy, but much better when others are happy because of you." And that was Pope Francis. So I yesterday,
Yeah,
and I thought I'd share that. So
that's that's good, and that actually speaks to kind of the conversation we both have had. Melissa, any final thoughts that you want to share, or anything you want to say?
No, I don't think so, but I really appreciate what Justin just read. That is
Yeah,
so
that was
true and
good.
right on.
That was good. That kind of sums it all up. Well, again, thanks for both of you for joining us. We are going to play the song. I'll come right back after the song and some closing thoughts. But thanks for the two of you for getting up and joining us today.
Mhm.
We'll see you.
You told the darkness to give up its night, and before you were the colors of life. There's no love that is higher, though I walk through the fire, you're with me. So let our hearts bring you glory. our voices cry, holy and free, rescue me. Full of mercy, and it sets me free. Sweet redemption that's bigger than me. There's no love that is higher. Though I walk through the fire, you're with me. So let our hearts bring you glory. Our voices cry, holy and free, rescue me. And nothing can move us. Hallelujah. Our hearts sing out through the pouring rain, and Spirit within us, come now, hear us, and fall on our hearts with your grace. Let it carry me away. There's no love that is higher. I'll walk through the fire. Our hearts bring you glory. Your voice cries, holy love that is higher. I'll walk through the fire. Our hearts bring you glory. Your voice cries, holy love that is higher. I'll walk through the fire. Our hearts bring you glory. Your voice cries, holy love that is higher. I'll walk through the fire. Our hearts bring you glory. Your voice cries, holy, and nothing can move us. Hallelujah. Our hearts sing out through the pouring rain, and Spirit within us, come now, hear us, and fall on our hearts with your grace. Oh, now fall on our hearts with your grace. Come now, fall on our hearts with your grace. And let it carry us away.
So good. And now that we kind of know a little bit of the backstory of that song, it kind of means even more just sitting here listening to it myself again. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Um, Tried a new technology, a little glitchy, but you know what? I've seen the same type of glitchiness on CNN and Fox and any of these other channels that right now when we're bringing people in online. So hopefully we'll get that figured out. But thank you for joining us. Thank you again to Justin and Melissa for coming on and being transparent and sharing just a little bit of their stories and their hearts. Here's my challenge for you this week. One of the things we talked about last week is that the first calling that any of us have is where God has called us to himself. And that's where we start. And right now, if you're maybe a little bit like Melissa, you're in this season where you're stepping away from church or you're unsure about some things, visit that calling, reclaim that calling of being called to God. Know that he's still calling you. He's still calling all of us to himself. And then the second thing is being called to set ourselves apart. I shared last week. It's kind of like my marriage to Keisha. I'm set apart to Keisha. She and I are in this relationship. Doesn't mean I have to be weird, and I'm set. It just means that's where my heart is. And when we're called to be set apart to God, it's the same thing, being committed to Him in a relationship. And then the third thing is being called to service. And that's us serving out in the community. That's us serving in the church where we can. Right now, that's a challenge for us, but being God's hands and feet in our community, that's what we're called to do. So I hope that challenges you, touches you, and maybe this week you can find an opportunity to think through that. Am I living in my calling of being called to Him? Am I living in my calling of setting myself apart to Him? And am I serving like I should? Hey, love you guys. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday. All right. God bless you.